Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and Sequel Q&A. My name's Doug. So the next sequel that we're going to be covering is one that really jumped the shark in the franchise, but we're for it. We love Bruce Willis, and I love Die Hard 4. Live Free or Die Hard. I love it. Justin Long, Kevin Smith, Timothy Oliphant as a bad guy. Sign me up. Maggie Q as the lead henchman. Yes. So good. And for it, I interviewed an equally as awesome person as the people I just mentioned. Stuntman Mark Riccardi. Mark, he's special to me because he is from my hometown. He went to high school with both my parents. And he went from like this little tiny thing when you grew up in this tiny town. Oh, there's 4 elementary schools, a middle school, high school. Few, you know all these little things, so tiny. And he went out to Hollywood, and his journey just from South Plainfield to Hollywood is something I didn't know about. So it was pretty fascinating to be able to hear it. And Mark's one name out of the South Plainfield guys that went out to Hollywood, the stuntmen, Irving Smith, Dennis Madelon, and Mark. Mark is one my dad talked about a lot because Mark was the stunt double for Travolta in the 90s. So I remember so many times watching movies and my dad would be like, hey, wait, don't change Jill yet. I know that guy, which is so cool that all these years later, I had the opportunity to talk to him. My dad passed away well before I first connected with Mark, like a year and a half ago. But my dad would have been really stoked to hear this chat because he talked about him a lot. Like anytime in a Travolta movie, he always bring up his name. When I mentioned my dad's name to Mark, he didn't remember him offhand. But again, years go by. My dad didn't remember some people he went to school with. So maybe they had a connection back then. I don't know. But it was cool to talk to the person my dad would always be like, oh, that's that guy. And so we talked about, breaking into the business, working on Star Trek, what goes into doubling and how that works. Some really cool stories about that. How to prepare for a stunt, some hairy stunts that he had to deal with over the years. Really cool stories from working on the movie Broken Arrow, Howie Long, Christian Slater, some really wild stuff. Mark's great, man. And he's still busting his hump, really still crushing it. Black Phone came out a few years ago. And I remember people in my hometown on like the Facebook page, like, hey, it's South Plainfield's own Mark Riccardi. I think that's when I reached out to him. Probably right around when Black Phone first came out as the first time we connected. So happy we finally did it. And before I start the interview with Mark, if you're new here, welcome. Please, please, please like, subscribe, share. It doesn't cost you anything. Nothing at all. And if you go on YouTube, subscribe there. I know it's a little bit more of a process. The link is in the episode notes, but if you could, that'd be awesome too, because that helps us out. Make a little coin on this labor of love that we have of sequels and the people that help bring sequels to life. This week's guest. So without further ado, here's Stuntman Mark Riccardi.
What I like to always do, and it's funny, the first time I'm talking to somebody from South Plainfield, like, I don't know, I guess the only other one would be Dennis Madelon from South Plainfield that made it out to Hollywood, right? Or is there anyone else that you knew?
Actually, Irving Lewis as well. Irving Lewis,
okay.
He was a track star in high school. Him and Dennis graduated the same year. I think it was 74. And
okay. And Mike Price. I guess Mike Price is the other one.
Mike Price. I don't know Mike. But
he graduated in the 80s, but he's a writer on The Simpsons. He's been a writer on The Simpsons.
Oh, really? Okay, that's cool.
Since like 92. Yeah. No,
Well, Dennis, he came out here right after graduation, I believe. And he pretty much blazed the trail for the rest of us. I always had it in the back of my mind that I would eventually wind up in LA. At the time, if you wanted to be a stunt guy, it's not like it is today, where you can work in New Orleans, New Mexico, Atlanta, New York. My journey was college, 5 years of college at West Virginia.
Oh, sweet.
And I was a quarterback. It was a junior college for 2 years, transferred to WVU. I did real well at the junior college. Unfortunately, WVU was a big step up. And I ran into I ran into a lot of blue chip quarterbacks. That Oliver Luck was one of them, and his son.
Oh, really?
His son
was
Andrew, right? So things didn't work out there, even though I was on the 5-year program where I had a year where I sat out, and then I had 2 more. I enjoyed my time in college. What can I tell you?
I'm sure.
Played some ball, and then by the time things didn't look like I was really going to go anywhere, I decided to pack it up, and I went down to Jacksonville, Florida, of all places. And I played with a semi-pro team down there, the Jacksonville Sharks. So
that's awesome, man. That's cool. You kept doing it. But what was so you said you always had in the back of your mind you go out to LA. What was it like growing up in town? Was it just watching movies, being like, I want to be involved in that? Or was it specifically stunts?
I got to tell you, it was more about, back in the day, it was like Burt Lancaster, the older stars, James Cagney.
Yeah.
Like those are the kind of guys that I was watching, and those fights, everything was, what can I tell you? The whole aspect of being a stunt man, it wasn't like I was one of those guys that was riding the motorcycles and doing high falls and it really didn't hit me till I was probably like a sophomore in college. And I think it was probably because I knew that Dennis had gone out there, and I always kind of had that plan B. If I wasn't going to go to the pros or play any football beyond college, I thought, well, what the hell else? I really don't want to work for a living. So let me go out there and be a man. I didn't want a job. And being a stunt man, it's like having fun, man. It's like just going to work every day.
Yeah.
It's not like a blue collar job. It's something that, I just really took to.
So how'd you make it out there from the Jacksonville Sharks? So you're doing semi-pro ball. Did you reach out to Dennis or Irving, or did you just head out?
I was doing a little bit of homework. I was trying to find some stunt schools that were out in Hollywood.
Okay.
And I ran into a couple of them, which I contacted, and I wound up, going out there. I think this was 82. And I called Dennis and told him I'd be coming out. And lo and behold, I was there for 2 weeks, and we ran into each other. And, one thing led to another. I joined the stunt school, and I was in that for about maybe 6 weeks. And then it's really about getting your first job from there, and then moving on.
And was that first job Eye for an Eye, or was that the Greatest American Hero?
It was Eye for an Eye. Yeah,
nice.
There was about 5 stunt guys that we all worked with a director named Steve Carver, and Aaron Norris. We all used to hang out and play cards and play a little touch football on the beach.
I've heard good things about Aaron. He's a pretty solid director. He's directed a few films.
Yeah. So anyway, that was pretty much it. Once Steve called and said, "Hey, I want you to work up here," we shot it up in San Francisco, and I was up there for about 2 weeks, and I got my SAG card. You eventually, once you're working non-union, and then when you have that opportunity to get in the union, you get your, that prize trophy, that Screen Actors Guild card. So now you can start working on union films. So that kind of kicked it off. And then I started working with Dennis, and Greatest American Hero, and Fall Guy, and a bunch of those.
And what was like from there? So it's so funny. Like I always remember my dad's Jeff Dietzel. He graduated 77, but I remember him always mentioning your name. I forgot what movie we were watching, but I remember the credits are rolling and my dad pointed to your name. It wasn't Face Off, might have been Pulp Fiction, but it was one of those movies. And my dad was like, "Oh yeah, I know that guy." Like, really? Yeah, he went to South Plainfield. And I was like, "Oh my God."
It happens a lot. It took, the business itself is kind of tricky. When I first got out to LA, it was very family oriented. And, to come out here and only know Dennis and not really looking for him to throw me a bone, like, you want to earn it yourself. I kind of took that route. I mean, I had a was a bartender, landscaper, DJ. I mean, I was working my ass,
Yeah.
Trying to do a lot of the nighttime jobs so I could hustle during the day to, go out there and meet the coordinators. So I was trying not to put that pressure of Dennis, like hire me, and make him, the one to have to push me forward. But you need that little leg up once in a while, because out here 35 years ago, it was all family oriented. I mean, it was the grandfathers and the fathers and to get in the business, it was a very tight knit group. And to break in was a bitch. So it took a lot of steps, but definitely, I got to tell you, it was Star Trek: The Next Generation that fell in my lap. I was doubling Jonathan Frakes, and I wound up doubling him for about 5 years, which there, again, Dennis was coordinating that. So Irving and I, it was a South Plainfield team on The Next Generation.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then like I was saying, it's about mentors. It's about people. It's about connections. I mean, the synchronicity of who you meet in this business is so huge. I mean, the idea of coming from New Jersey to LA and then get the opportunity to work with Travolta, through a friend of a friend, was like, holy shit. I mean, this is amazing. And I got my little chance there with a show called, what the hell was Pulp Fiction, but it was White Man's Burden that I actually met Travolta. And
nice.
It was Mary Belafonte and John were in that. I don't know if you remember that one.
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely remember that one. So that movie, when you got hired for that movie, when you were working on that, were you at right away like his double, or were you just hired to do stunt and then they put 2 and 2 together saying, hey?
Well, it was the coordinator that said, hey, Mark, I'd love to, have you get on the show here. Let's see what we can do. Let's work some things out and try to get you in there. So I wound up meeting Travolta on Pulp Fiction, and he sized me up and he's like, okay, you look good, blah, 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 blah. We're both from New Jersey. Leave your resume in my trailer. And next thing you know, about 3 weeks later, I got a call from his assistant, and one thing led to another, and I'm doubling. But after that, I just thought it was a one-time deal. But then here I am about 3-4 months later, I'm on the set of Star Trek, and I get a call from the stunt coordinator on Get Shorty. And he's like, Mark, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm working today. I'm at the Paramount lot. He says, well, I need you to get up here right away. Travolta wants to hire you for like 2 months on Get Shorty. So he remembered me. He actually had another guy up there, the coordinator had another dude, a good friend of mine. And he said, no, I don't want that guy. Get the guy. I don't know. He didn't even remember my name for place.
Yeah.
That guy that doubled me on White Man's Burden. And next thing you know, I'm on Get Shorty, and the rest is history, because I wound up working like 13 shows with him after that.
Oh yeah, that's unbelievable. And some epic movies like the one behind you, Face Off, is like one of the craziest movies. But when it comes to doubling, what are some of the things that people don't think of that you're responsible for? Obviously, it's for any stunt sequences, right?
Well, it's the overall safety of the actor.
Yeah.
Making sure whatever little things he needs to do, he's got his pads, knees and elbows and what have you. But a double, most guys work their way up in the business. They call them ND guys, where they're just getting shot, thrown around, and this, just guys that are working all the time are just getting beat up. But then the doubles, you get a guy, and if you're lucky enough to hang on to him for like 10, 12 years, you can have a great career. Mind you, once you do that, everybody forgets about you. I mean, they will. When I started working with Travolta, my phone stopped ringing. I wasn't getting those where, you're getting thrown out of a window or getting shot or whatever. So for 12 years, it's like guys just all thought I disappeared, but I was doing 3 films a year with John.
Yeah, because you're busy. So it was a good thing to not get thrown out of a window,
Well, you want those jobs too, you try to get as much as you can, because it all adds up to future residuals. So,
Totally.
you want to pad your resume, because shows like Greatest American Hero, I'm still getting paid for that show.
Yeah.
I'm still getting a residual for around 10 cents. But yeah, the whole Travolta run was a good one. The Get Shorty deal, I remember working with, of all people, James Gandolfini, Tony Soprano.
Oh, that's cool.
We got real close, and there was a fight scene between us, and we got along really well, him being from Jersey as well. And I remember that my last day on the set with him, I was parked probably about a half a block away, and I seen him walking around in the street. He's holding this blunt. What the fuck's he doing? He's, probably half a block away. And he looked and spotted me, pointed, and then ran over to my truck. And he's like, "Hey, man," he says, "I just wanted to give you this." He says, "You did a hell of a job, and I really enjoyed meeting you." And it was a bottle of Johnny Walker Red.
Wow, that's cool, man.
Nice bottle of scotch, yeah. Which I thought was really nice.
Yeah, that's early in his career too, right? That's
way
one of his first
way before Tony Soprano, for sure.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. But that's like really early. That's cool that he was like that. That's awesome.
Well, he appreciate. There's some actors out there that really, really appreciate, what we do. But anyway, getting back to your question, as far as the stunt, the doubling part, basically, again, just keeping your actor safe. As a stunt double, you're watching your actor. You're really learning his moves, his mannerisms, and you want to just create that to where when they see the rushes the next day, they don't know. There's so many times where I was told, "Well, I didn't know whether that was Travolta or you." That's probably that's the biggest compliment you can have.
Totally, because you noticed that, I'm sure, from being doing this job for 35 plus years. When you watch a movie and you see like that other angle or the faraway shot, and you see like what's obviously not the actor, and you could tell it's not the actor, maybe it's the way they're walking or their mannerisms. So that's pretty cool. That's, like you said, that's a great compliment to be like, "Hey, is that Mark or is that John Travolta?"
Yeah. I mean, there's still scenes that I can go back and watch in Face Off where, you just can't, you can't. But Face Off was a crazy show, because we spent 3 months in the Long Beach Harbor with that. You remember obviously the ending, the 5-minute, 6-minute boat chase there. That was
and that was filmed first, right? Wasn't that the first thing that was filmed, or no?
We were that was a second unit shoot there, where we went out and just shot the whole harbor and all the explosions and helicopters, blind driving, the boats, the Scarabs. We had a blind driver down inside the boat while I was up on the top pretending that I was driving. But I had a guy down there who's looking through a little piss hole about this big and hoping that he sees what the fuck's going, what's in front of him.
Yeah.
But we had a hairy moment on that, though. I don't know how much of that boat chase you remember, but there was a sequence there where I was at the back of the boat, where the cage double was kind of strangled me down near the motor, where the boat is just flying across the water at about 50, and heading towards a kind of a dock of sorts that extended out into the water. Well, the story behind all this was that we went out at like 8 in the morning, and we kind of rehearsed it. And that opening that the Scarab was going to shoot under was probably about 15 by 50, where it was wide open. A straight shot through it would have been no problem. Well, we wound up doing it at Magic Hour, and that was like around 5 or 6 o'clock. And they were looking at the watch, and I've got to get the shot. No rehearsals. It's like, let's just go. And by the time we did it, and we got down into that position and getting I come up. I think he runs for the steering wheel, the double, and we got the blind driver who's heading for the dock. Which now that opening, Doug, is now probably 6 by 6. What we didn't take into account for was the tide came in. So the tide came in, closed the gap, and I stood up to grab the anchor to hit the double. And son of a bitch, I mean, at 60 miles an hour, there was a bar that was just right across the bottom of that of the bridge there, and if I want one of those, and I got through it, but without a little bit of move, it would hit that son of a bitch clear. It was so fucking scary. But it was just one of those things that, sometimes in the movie business, you're going against the clock and you're doing things where you're just not, sometimes, unfortunately, not being safe. And,
well, you're thinking about, there is a factor that you can't plan for. You can, in a sense, because you can go out and check it out.
Yeah.
But usually if you're filming like a building, we could jump out of this window. This is where it is. Nothing could change too much, maybe wind or something. Right. But yeah, it's pretty wild. Is that the first time you had that type of hairy moment? That was at this point, you're doing this like 10, 12 years.
Well, at that point, I probably was only doing it maybe 7 or so. But I wasn't doing the big gags. Like I said, I was that ND guy that was just getting punched and thrown over tables. But now when you're the double, they throw a script at you and they say, well, okay, we got a high fall, we got a motorcycle, we got this. You don't want to say no to anything. You want to, you say no to one thing and then the next guy comes in and then you're out, So I tried to say yes and not to leave no in my vocabulary. Unless it was something that was too radical.
What were some things? Did you ever do a burn? Did you ever say, do you do that? Or did you ever do that?
I've done some burns, but not, back and shoulder. There's some pretty rad fire burns that are full body that, you leave that kind of stuff to the guys that do it.
Yeah. Like Kane Hodder did that. And then it's crazy that he would ever do that again because he almost died.
Well, Kane, it's funny you mentioned him. He was one of our buddies that worked on Eye for an Eye as well.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, he was with us he would come to the beach with us all the time and notice he'd have the burns prior to that as well. And he would come to the beach and his arms and everything was just all lit up. He wound up going on having a fantastic career.
Yeah, because people think about it, he's Jason Voorhees, but it's like, no, man, this guy's like a stunt coordinator and does stunts in so many movies and some random roles too. You'd be like, that's Kane Hodder in the background. Yeah. Like in Ghoulies 3, he's in like the opening scene, and I'm like, Jason's doing this? Like when he's not filming a Friday the 13th, he's playing like I think he's a gym teacher in the beginning of the movie, and he falls into a bucket, and he's falling down like a hill, like in a bucket, like a mop bucket going down. But that's cool that you knew him early on.
I haven't seen him in years. All along the whole business of just being around a lot of the guys. I mean, it was fun back in 20 years ago. We used to all hang out before the phones. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
Before the cell phones, we used to, we all made a point to get in touch with each other. Now it's like you don't see each other and everybody's texting and you pretty much know what everybody's doing.
I know, yeah. So there's no catching up, yeah.
Yeah, when we worked 20 years ago, you'd get on a set, we'd play pitch, poker, and we'd get caught up and we'd find out where the shows are. And it was so different. I wouldn't even want to be part of getting in the business now, as opposed to when I got in 30 years ago. It was amazing.
Yeah. So how did you come to like stunt coordinating? Was that through working on one of the shows with Travolta, or was it another film?
Well, basically, the deal with stunt coordinating, anybody, in England, you got to have you have to have 3 cards, or you got to go through a process. To 1, 2, 3 or ABC, and it gets you to a point to where you now have this card where you can stunt coordinate. Out here, it's like, shit, you can come out here and stunt coordinate if there's a producer that wants you with no credits or anything behind you. So you want to be able to have a little bit of something behind you. And Travolta, I worked a Phenomenon. I guess we were in Northern California. And after doing like 3 or 4 films with him, he was like, hey, Mark, I got a show coming up, General's Daughter. You think you might want to coordinate? And I'm like, well, yeah, fuck yeah, I want to coordinate. Because
that's a good movie.
Yeah, the shows. He was just thinking, he wasn't even on that same wavelength. He just said, well, he's a double and that's all he wants to do. But in order to really survive in this business, you got to take that leap and start coordinating. And like I said, most guys can just get in because they know a producer or director or whatever. But here I had Travolta, which was my leg up and just another reason why I am where I'm at, because he, introduced me to Simon West, who directed General's Daughter. And I wound up doubling him and coordinating, and one thing led to another. And next film, I'm coordinating Civil Action. So that's where it started.
There's got to be a lot of responsibility with that, right? Is it like you're testing the stunts out? Like, how does that go into, like, even if you could think of like a stunt in particular that you can like use as a reference, but is it planning the angles? Like, how do you even begin that process?
Well, it all starts with the script.
Yeah.
And let's say, let me give a good example. Whiplash. Okay, if you remember Whiplash, there was a T-bone where, this semi-truck is coming at Miles Teller's car and T-bones him, flips him, the whole bit. And it would have been a big setup if we were to do it organically. But we wound up, we did some little movie tricks with that. And we set things up in a way to where we brought the semi-truck right up to the glass window, and then we did a reverse. So,
nice.
So we did a reverse on it. So at the end of the day, it looked like it hit it. Which if you see that T-bone, it looks just crazy. And then we check it out again. Then we put the car on the side with a camera in the back seat and a stunt guy kind of sitting sideways. And then we had a crane and we took the car and we rolled it over until it landed on the roof. So we did it in like 3 or 4 different pieces. But if you look at it, it looks like a clear T-bone from a frickin' semi-truck going about 60 miles an hour. So what was on the page was one thing, but as a coordinator, you got to kind of get creative and do what's budgetarily right for the company as well. And then, of course, we hire the stunt doubles, and, everybody. It's a complete job where now you're working with the suits. You have to be there for the producer. You got to be there for the director. And today what we do is, I don't know if you've heard of previses. You heard of the word previs?
Previses? No. What's that?
Previs. Worked on the movie Black Phone with director Scott Derrickson.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a conversation with him, and it's funny. He says, Mark, ironically, before this phone call, he says, I was just sitting with my son and we had just got done watching Face Off. And we were wondering who the stunt guy was that doubled Travolta. And I'm thinking, oh, this is a good thing. So far, it sounds like I'm in. So he wound up hiring me, and we shot it in Wilmington, North Carolina. And the first thing he told me when we got together, he says, look, I got a bunch of fight scenes. He says, but I got to tell you, I want them all previs. He says, I don't want you coming to me and telling me you got this and you got that. He says, I want you to go and shoot it. So we, and I have a bunch of them on my previses are on Instagram. Working with the kids, I had about 6 or 7 kids that were probably 15 and under. I worked with them, and I worked with the stunt doubles that I was able to find all over the country. Just little 5-footers, 4-foot, small people. They were kids, guys that could actually double these kids. So it worked out really well. But I shot the whole scene and then presented it to the director. And he's like, sheesh. And a compliment came from him when we were on set, when I showed the DP, the previs. He walked up to the DP. He says, I want this scene shot just like that.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, okay, that's another feather in my cap. So the previs is very powerful. A lot of directors want to see that done these days.
What does it stand for? Like prevision?
It's
called prevision? Like he just wants you to do whatever? Oh, okay.
Well, no, it's the scene. It's what's on the written page. And then,
Yeah.
of
But
course,
it's your vision, what you think it should look like.
that's right. What I think
Yeah.
stunt wise, it should look like. And then, we look at it and, he may say, well, okay, this is good. And maybe we take that out. There's always a meeting of the minds there that eventually make it work. And then we shoot it. And we did that throughout the whole movie. Oh, Black Phone, it was really good stuff.
And that's what it is now. Like other jobs you've been on since that, it was same thing. Like, or was that like a one-off for you?
No, it's every job. I just got back
Really?
from working on Spinal Tap with Rob Reiner.
Yeah, those pictures the pictures you sent me. That's so rad that they're doing a sequel. That's so cool that you got to work on it. Yeah.
I mean, I really had never seen the first one, but I had to do my research. And some of the gags that we had on there were just pretty amazing stuff. And had some great doubles for the leads. And Rob's the same way, Rob always would like to see, I pull him aside. Hey, Rob, look, this is what it took us 2-3 days to rehearse, and this is what we come up with. And a lot of it nowadays, I shoot it right here, my iPhone. Cut it, and just put in the sound effects, and I just turn it into my own little movie. Sometimes they're too good, so you got to watch out for some directors' egos are like, holy shit. $60 million to shoot this movie, and you're shooting it on a little iPhone. What the hell?
Yeah.
So I gotta relax a little bit because I get a little crazy, and I put in the punches and maybe a little blood once in a while.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And you directed, right? You did a comedy, Mamaluke, right?
Well, yeah, that's been like my my little baby. I've had it for about 10 years now. It was just an idea that a buddy of mine, Ben Fury, who's a writer back east, we came up with the idea 10 years ago. We've shot like 5 episodes, www.mamaluketv.com.
Cool. I know. I'll put it in the episode notes. No, have you ever thought about directing like an action? Because obviously what it should look like, right?
I just try to stick. I love my little comedies. I love my little. I have a feature or two that I'm trying to.
Sweet.
Put together a show. It's called The Boring Identity. It's a parody on The Boring Identity. So
nice.
I'm trying to get that off the ground, but you know what? I just do what I do. Coordinating, if being in the business 30 years and to continue working is a blessing. So I just continue to do it, hang out with the boys, and just do our deal here.
Yeah, no, it's just that's cool that you're that you have that opportunity, especially like bouncing these, filming like you said, and adding things in post on your end, and be like, hey, check this out, Rob Reiner, and like be able to.
But look, they can either go with the flow, or they can always renege and say, hey, give me something else.
Yeah.
I mean, John, my best experience, I'd probably, besides Face Off, I'd have to say, was working with John Woo on Broken Arrow. That was
man, that's another good movie.
That was a real fun one because we spent a lot of time up in Montana doing a big train sequence. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was just amazing. And then we had a boxing sequence that we did in LA, which was pretty cool. Training at the time with, I can't remember his name, but Travolta and I both had to take boxing lessons for about 2 weeks. So at the time we got together with one of I can't remember his name at the time, but we would go in, just learn a jab, and Travolta would get in there, and we had it was a good experience. It was something different. But Christian Slater was in that one too.
Yeah, he was great. That was a really cool movie because that's like, because obviously he did movies after like the Heathers era of his career, like when he's like kind of like a teenish, like 20-something heartthrob. But that was like a kind of a different movie for him to be like in a badass action movie. Besides like True Romance, Yeah, no, that was a cool movie. And him versus Travolta was cool. So like you said, you had that run of all those Travolta movies. Like it's like General's Daughter, well, still action first, and then this is just in this 5-year span. I know you started with him earlier. Battlefield Earth, Lucky Numbers, Swordfish. So like you're working with him, man. That's so cool that when he's doing the movie,
Primary Colors was
yeah.
Oh, it was 2002. It was 2002 where I stopped working with Travolta.
Yeah.
And, and again, it was really before the internet, or at least all this stuff wasn't going on at the time. And trying to get a job was like, you still had to get on the phone and you still had to go through the reporter and see what was good. And I almost had to go back and tell a lot of the guys that, hey, I'm available now because I'm not working with John anymore. And so that was kind of a rough time. But then, one door closes, another one opens because again, Dennis was doing Without a Trace at the time with LaPaglia, and he brought me on to double Anthony in that show. So
wow.
So for 5 years now, I'm doubling Anthony LaPaglia. Where I thought, Travolta days were over, and what am I going to do? So there's a 5-year run with Anthony.
Yeah, and then in that 5-year run, it's got to coincide. You get the chance to work on Mission Impossible 3, Live Free or Die Hard, like the TV series Heroes.
It kind of slipped in the other show, the features along the way. But the good thing about that, I was now in town. So being in town meant, there was a lot of options that were there. Now I remember. Christian Slater. It was an early morning. At the time, he may have been his late nights where everybody knew about him, maybe tipping the bottle a little bit and partying a little too.
Yeah.
8 a.m, we're on the train, and we got this little scene where I have to my foot, and he's kind of like on all fours, and he's just starting to get up, and as he gets to a high point in his lift, I put a foot in the middle of his back, and I fucking slam him down he just does one of these on all fours, and boy, let me tell you what, Doug, he gets up and takes a fucking swing at me, like, you son of a bitch, and he comes up and just tags me right across my nose, and I'm like, whoa, dude, come on now. I said, I gave you that little foot, but I kind of took a little off. It wasn't like I hammered him. But damn it, that little son of a bitch didn't get up and hit me. I mean, just hit me, just like right across right here without, didn't break my nose, but he caught me. So we got a little bit of a tangle there. And, it was one of those things where we just weren't seeing eye to eye for the next week or two to finish the movie, but it was what it was. And, we got through it. But the kicker to that story is about 6 or 7 years later, I get a call from a coordinator asking me to work on this TV show. And lo and behold, Slater was the star of it at the time. I can't remember the name of the damn. But I'm on the call sheet. I show up. I'm there. I'm walking on the set. And around the corner comes Christian. And do you know, he walks up to me, dude. And he says, Mark, he says, son of a bitch. He says, I seen your name on the call sheet. He says, and I just wanted to come over here and apologize for taking a crack at you 10 years ago. And I'm like, oh, what a bitch. Here's this guy, Christian Slater, still remembering the time when he took a crack at me. And I thought that was really
cool.
Yeah.
The show was The Forgotten. Did you think that too?
Yes.
Like when you got the job, when you got the job, and you're like, oh, this is a Christian Slater show. Did you think of like, man, what's going to happen when I see him? Or is it going to be a little awkward?
Yeah,
you did?
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been telling this story for 20 years.
Yeah.
Because of the idea that, he just closed the story. He closed the story for me by making it better than it was. I mean, it was already cool with him getting up, trying to.
Yeah.
But for him to come and tell me he was sorry for throwing the punch, that just, that just kicks it off, right?
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
No. And I one of the you sent me like a few of the movies that you have some stories about. One that my daughter loves it because she loves bunnies is Hop.
All of them. Well, Hop does no. Again, you got to know people sometimes, right? To get on these shows. Well, the cool thing about Hop was that Veronica Alessino, who was my girlfriend, she's a South Plainfield girl. She was my girlfriend in the 7th and 8th grade. I don't know if you've heard of the Alessinos, but she's been out here. She's an actress, and she's been out here probably as long as I am.
Oh, no way.
Oh, and her husband is Tim Hill, who he was a director. He's done a whole bunch of SpongeBob movies and a lot of animes, right?
Okay.
And then he wound up directing Harmony. So there was a part of the security guy, and lo and behold, she's like, "Hey, Mark, I don't think I coordinated the show. It might have been somebody else on it, but they gave me the part as a security guard, and then I took the dart in the neck."
Oh, nice.
You remember that or no?
I had to look out for that. I don't. My daughter's watched it so many times. I should know it. Should be burnt into my memory because how much she loves it. But I'll have to watch it again. But that's so funny. So somebody else from South Plainfield was out there, an actress, and you just kept in contact with her?
She played a waitress in the movie. But again, it was a phone call from her to say, "Hey, look, Tim's got a part as a security guard. Why don't you come out and do it?" He gets, I get hit in the neck. They blow a dart, the little rabbits. The dart hits me in the neck, tranquilizer, and it kind of drops me over. That's your daughter. She knows. She'll know about that.
I will. I'll ask her as soon as I go in.
Yeah.
But wow, man, that's so cool. And then just some other things that you're in. Like at this point, like you said, like you had that little lull, like right after Travolta, when you thought like, oh, and then you get Dennis hits you up. You're doubling.
Well, Heroes.
5 years.
And Heroes too.
Oh, Heroes too. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, you're busy after that point. Yeah.
Yeah. Heroes. I was doubling. Greg Grunberg, man. This guy is just an amazing guy. That he just executive produced the Pete Rose that's on HBO right now. I don't know if you've seen that one out there. Yeah,
no, I haven't yet.
I mean, he's an actor, but he's all out in producing. Really good and great friend of mine that I doubled him for like 3 years on Heroes. It's just crazy how just when you think things are going this way, you get the call or the knock and somebody calls you for something else. So
yeah, they pull you back in, right? The whole Godfather.
The line out here is like, we don't leave the business leaves us.
Yeah, that's true.
That's kind of the way it is, man. Once you start tipping 65 and over, maybe the phone doesn't ring as much, but that's why if you're coordinating, you still have your connections. And luckily for me, a lot of my connections are younger than I am. So that's always good because they're going to continue working and then they'll just take me right into my retirement.
Yeah.
But there's always a place, there's always a car to be riding passenger in or getting shot here or there, or taking a squib. It's been a hell of a ride. I gotta tell you. And then when you put all the movies and the TV stuff aside, I've had I've probably done over 20, 30 music videos.
Oh, that's cool. That's not on here. So,
Beyonce. Who else? I just did. Oh my goodness. What's the one? Ben Affleck's wife.
Jennifer Lopez?
Jennifer Lopez. Yeah, she just did her little movie, that little movie style. It was like a 20-day shoot for a music video.
Oh my God.
That we did. And, well, that was crazy. But in general, a lot of those music videos are like, 3-4 days and you're out. But those are great little jobs to just get into.
Yeah, those are cool. When did you start doing that? Was that something you did like early on or just more recently?
Probably over the last 15, 20 years. They just kind of, you have one or two, again, a couple connections here or there, and they keep you in mind. You do a good job. And they'd wind up calling you back. So those have kind of been little gravy on the side.
Yeah, totally. Marco, well, you mentioned like squibs and like, going through windows. Do you have besides obviously the story from Face Off is wild, that what almost could have happened if you weren't quick enough. Did you ever have any other stunts that you did over the years that maybe were like, man, it's pretty dicey?
Well, there was some, I've been in a few car wrecks, Hawaii 5-0, getting T-boned, getting clipped when the good spot to hit is like kind of on the tail end. But when they kind of clip you right there on the passenger side and then pop you, it's, if you're not protected right, if you don't have the right equipment, you can, seriously do some damage. But in most cases, I've been lucky, I guess. In a lot of cases, I come out with a lot of bruises. A lot of the older stunt guys, the whole generation before me, they're all, from what I'm seeing, they're all getting knee replacements. They're getting hip replacements. I mean, shoulders, I think it was a different time. Before my generation, stunt guys were like, just give me a knee pad and an arm. They were, real men. These were like cowboys. Cowboys were a lot of the stunt guys. And they just didn't protect themselves as well as the guys today. I mean, I remember going to, on Broken Arrow, when we had to jump a Humvee, I don't know, about 20 feet in the air, and then it was a double jump, and they both had to hit each other, two Humvees, and in the air they had the driver I was with had knees and elbows, and I'm passenger. He was doubling Howie Long, driving the Humvee.
Oh,
we both hit the ramp at about 70, and we crashed at a high point, and then came down to the ground. But I remember that day, he looked over at me. He says, "Riccardi," he says, "you think you're padded up enough?" I looked like the Marshmallow Man. I was little pads all up and down. I was tucked in. I couldn't even move. I knew my side was the hit side, but I was completely just padded up, which was like so stupid. When I think about it today, that I look over to Danny Winans, and he's all he's got. He was a little older than me and way more experienced at the time. And he's got two elbows and two knees, and he says, "Come on, let's do this." So yeah, protection, being able to protect yourself today. Guys show up with big packs of pads. I mean, they carry them on their backs, and it's just it's a lot safer. It's the business itself. Everything is so well thought out that there's far and few accidents, I believe, today.
Yeah, no, that's true. Like when you think of those 80s movies, even like when you talk about like Canon Films, like how they were on such shoestring, but hey, let's get it going. Like there were some like horrific things that happened to people because it was like, hey, let's try this thing, or let's add more explosives to this building that's going to blow up.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Canon, because there was another company at the time when I first showed up. It was called PM Entertainment, Pep and Murray. And this was Van Damme and Rutger Hauer, and I don't know, a lot of the older, they weren't older, they were all the young guys at the time.
Yeah.
But this was a company that had these features that were just based on, 90% was action. We'd take a second unit out, coordinator and stunt guys, and we'd go shoot for 3 days and just kick the shit out of everything. I mean, it was a growing ground for stuntmen. It was where you went and were able to make your bones and have other guys see you. That being a very important thing. It's like business isn't that forgiving because you fuck up one time and it's like 10 other guys on the set and see you, maybe pull a punch or not take a hit like you should. And they're not, they see it. And they're not you don't sell out, they're not gonna call you next time. So you don't have too many opportunities to make a good impression.
That's sometimes you only get one chance to make a first impression.
You only get that one chance because I mean, as a coordinator, I'm pretty tough on a lot of the young guys, because I'm old school. I don't like, you can't come in with just a little bit of fluff and a resume. You got to hit the ground. You got to go through a wall. You got to have that passion. You got to have intensity. I want to hear you. That's the biggest thing for me in a stunt sequence. There's a lot of guys that get into a stunt rehearsal and they throw punches and, everything is kind of like, I want to see everything like 100% all the time. And the biggest line that I have is I tell these guys, look, this isn't a silent movie, guys. I said, I want to hear it. If you take a punch, I want to hear that reaction. I want to hear the air. You got to release that air. And you got to, it's 100%. And a lot of that comes from the old school guys of really, getting out there and just doing it the right way.
Yeah, that's what you learn.
Don't
So it's like when you're learning something.
Don't get me going.
Yeah, no. Yeah. But that's what you learn. Like when you start something, you get it passed down, and then you want to pass it down when you're in that position. Obviously, you said things have changed nowadays. So obviously, safety is more of a forefront than it probably was back then.
Big thing too today is, and I have a reality show out there that I'm pitching as well. It's called the Hollywood Stunt Girls.
Cool.
Which is I went out and I shot the. This is not a previs. This is actually like a teaser, a 3-minute teaser, and just trying to sell the fact that the women in the business, they have a tough road. Competing with the men all the time, and the idea, years ago, men used to double women. They put the wig on and the dress and do all
terrible.
That. It was
Friday the 13th, Part 4. There is a guy with the hairiest legs.
Oh, really?
Getting thrown out of a window.
Yeah.
And he's wearing a wig that's not even the color of the woman that gets thrown out.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't do, there's so many talented women in the business today that, I enjoy working with them. And they're all tough girls. But my show itself, it was just based on 4 women, just kind of coming up in the business and, just learning the ropes and, whether I sell it or not, we'll see. But,
that's a good story to tell. Because like you said, like I've only talked to, doing this 5 years, I probably talked to almost like 150, 175 people. And I talked to one actress that just by chance, because she did both, because she wanted to work, she did stunts. Her name was Margine Holden. And she did it for the 90s. She worked on a few John Carpenter movies. And but it's a hard, like you said, they used to have men do the job. So it was almost like back to the Shakespeare days when it was like, all right, who's going to play the women parts? Why not the men with wigs on? And it's like, that's not how this should be.
Yeah. No, they, I have 4 or 5 that work with me all the time. And you basically, when you have to go out and find a double, of course, we have our books that we go through online, and we find the girls, and usually they're right on the money. They could be New Orleans, New York, LA, but the talent is there. And the idea of where do they come from? That's always like the first question I'll get. It's like gymnastics. What's their background? Generally, they're in high heels and doing stunts in high heels and dress, and they never have a place to put the pads, because they're exposed in some way. So they're taking a beating, but where they come from. That was the idea of my show. It's like, how did you get here? And it's a man's world, but yet you guys want to play, and I just think that's absolutely cool. It really gives them that, just gives them a good look.
Yeah, a good platform for them.
And they're women coordinating as well.
Now, do you have a group of stunt people that are like your go-to? Obviously, you said for like doubling, you have to make sure you go, hey, this person looks like, so I can do that. But you have like a group that you go to. Like if you get a show tomorrow, hey, these are the guys that I'm going to call.
Again, it's really between what you get. What kind of script falls on your table.
Oh yeah, no, I know. But I'm saying like I'm sure you have people in mind, or is it one of those things like if you're shooting in New Orleans, they say, okay, Mark, you gotta get local, or you have New Orleans guys?
Yeah. Well, local is always the priority.
100%. Yeah,
because of the budget. I always try to get like one or two of my main guys and try to fly them. But again, it's if they're doubling, then it's always an easy choice. Like we had a good friend of mine, Gary Price, who I've worked with for 20 years, and we were on Hawaii 5-0 together. He wound up doubling Elton John. So he came,
really?
he lives in Hawaii. So I was able to get him to New Orleans, because again, he was a great double. But overall, like you say, if I'm in New Orleans, I'm going to go to my New Orleans guys, and they're terrific stunt guys. LA, I got
the local is the way to go.
Local's the way to go. When you're doubling, usually you can pull them in from anywhere if you got a double. So that's kind of the rule of thumb. Atlanta, same thing with Atlanta. When I'm working in Atlanta, I'm taking from the Atlanta pool. But I always like to squeeze in that one.
One of your guys.
Here. Yeah. Well, you want to continue to feed the family, and take care of the buddies, because again, it's not always that check that you get on the day. It's the checks that you're going to get a year from now or 2 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
The residual factor is like no other job out there. I don't know. You tell me where you can go do a job today, get paid, and then 2-3 years later get paid again.
Oh no, not at all. That's not how it works. But that's what's so cool about it. You have those. I helped, like I talked to you, like when we first connected a few years ago, like Larry Hankin, the actor. I helped him put together his memoirs, and like in his older years, being like 84, 85. He's that's what helps him survive. Like those credits from the 70s, 80s, and 90s when he was getting 200 credits, like that's what helps him, like having those residuals. So it is big for an actor.
Actors like stuntmen, you can have the highs and lows. And, and when it's downtime, that walk to the mailbox is very gratuitous.
Yeah. Oh man, so this has been great, Mark. What a few questions I always like to ask people.
Fire away. I got plenty of time.
Oh no, I know. I just always try to keep it around an hour. But like, if you weren't doing this career, was there any what'd you go to school for?
What did I go to school for? Journalism.
Was it communications? Oh, journalism. Okay, cool.
Journalism, communications, and my little story behind that. Funny as it is. I really didn't get into that until I was at West Virginia, because I was in my junior year. You had to have some kind of major. And I remember those classes. I remember my teacher at the time, and I was always pretty good at putting words on a paper. I was just really good at it. The crazy thing is, I guess I did a show called was the Great American Traffic Jam with Shelley Fabre. I actually did some extra work on it. I got $30. $30 for the day. And I got another $35 because I used my little Miata in the traffic jam. So it was like a little $60 day, but there were some stunt guys and there were some things happening. Well, after I did that, I wound up doing, I guess maybe I for an Eye maybe came next, but I put together this whole little resume of what I had been doing. And I kind of did a little bit of that ad lib, that Jersey thing where the fish was this big, but it was this big. And I put all this on paper and I sent it to West Virginia. And I think the headline says, West Virginia ex-football player gets his hits now on the playing field. I mean, in the movies instead of the playing field. Well, I created this whole big thing and I sent it to him to put it in the frickin' paper. The West Virginia Anthem or whatever the hell it was. And it was almost verbatim. He didn't even have to fix it. And he sends me a note at the time or a letter or something. He says, Mark, look, if you ever decide to quit your day job, you can come work for me.
Look at that.
In the journalism department. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote this article that was so fantastic that he bought it.
Do you still have it?
None of it was true. Yeah, I still have it. It's somewhere.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sometimes you gotta see yourself as being a little bit bigger than you are to create that.
Yeah.
To create that.
Hell yeah. Yeah, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to believe in you. Like every time I've done anything, I always am like, I'm the best in the room, even though, I could go play pickup ball right now at 38, and there's a lot younger kids, taller people. I'm going to think I can beat the shit out of everyone for every rebound, because that's the way I've always thought, and that's what you got to think.
That's right. And I was out to kind of prove something too, because I had been telling everybody my junior, senior year, I'm going to make it to California, be a stunt.
Yeah.
I kept saying this, I'm going to go. It took me a little time to get there, 2-year stint in Jacksonville, but all my buddies, the football players, I wasn't quite making it on the football field. So my ego was telling me I got to do something else that's a little out there that these guys are going to remember. So
that's cool.
Lo and behold,
it's awesome that you did that.
There you go. So.
So did you ever early on in your career, keep any mementos? Did you think hey, this is eye for an eye, or your first thing, keep scripts or any wardrobe or anything over the years?
Do I have something up here? Yeah, I got a lot of this.
I'm sure yeah.
Like Travolta's, he's signed a whole bunch of stuff for me. Of course, I have the Battlefield Earth. I have the headpiece.
Really? That's awesome.
With the dreads.
With the dreads, yeah.
And the hand, with the long fingernails, the rubber piece. Yeah, what else? Scripts. I got a line of the scripts. The Face Off up here, General's Daughter, and yeah, I don't have as much stuff as you do in the back there. You have a lot of goodies.
These are a bunch of VHS tapes. A guy sent me. I interviewed a guy that was in Halloween 8, Halloween Resurrection, and he goes, "Hey Doug, what's your address?" Just that's it. And then and then 2 months later, I forgot about it. And then he sent me this, and it says, "To Doug, you're next." And it's a photo of Michael Myers with the knife. But yeah, these are during COVID. I was like, I need to put something behind me. So people are giving away VHS tapes. Nobody's like, hey, I need a VHS tape. So I took a bunch of them, and just so I have a backdrop behind me. But that's cool that you have those, especially the scripts. It's probably neat because you can look back and almost take a little journey to where you were at that time, because there's probably notes in there hey,
it's actually
this.
Signatures. I get the cast, the sign.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
right. The Star Trek cast from the Next Generation, have them all signed. And yeah, it's all good. It's funny though. My kids are so. I have a 17 and a 21-year-old, and they're it's just kind of weird. They know what I do, but kids nowadays they're so consumed in their phones and just their overall life and whatever they do, that it's very rare that you ask me more questions than they do. Well, they know what I do.
I think it's a different era. It's a different era. Even though it's not like I'm a lot older than your kids, but I'm 17 years older than your oldest. Right. I grew up when the internet was coming out. My dad was a garbage man. My dad worked at Statewide, the garbage place, over on whatever that Kentile Road or one of those. Okay. But so we didn't have computers and internet. I didn't have that until I was probably in 8th grade. We had a computer. So it's my wife's a teacher in Springfield. She teaches middle school, and she throws out Mark, the most recognizable names. I bet you if she went to her students and said, "Do you know who John Travolta is?" They probably wouldn't know, because now you could choose everything you want. Oh, I want to watch this, or I want to watch this, or YouTube, or TikTok, or any of that crap. But back in the day, it was what's on TV? Hey, let's sit around the TV. Let's choose between the 30 channels we have, and whatever's on is what we're going to watch,
Right. Yeah. Well, it's I don't even think they watch TV. It's all about that.
Oh, no.
15 seconds worth of enjoyment of what's right here. To sit and watch a movie, I don't think I've sat and watched the movie with my kids in 10 years. I mean, no. And then you don't finish it because they can't, they're onto the phone. It's just, it's a horrible thing. Like the craziest thing too, like with stunt guys. I mean, I hate to keep bagging on the phone, but it is what it is.
No.
It's where we are.
No, I know.
But the joke is, it's like, you get 10 stunt guys out on the set together, and today nobody's talking to each other because they're all sitting around on the phone like this, and as a coordinator, you look at that, I'm very observant of what's happening around me. And then I look and see all my stunt guys and they're just all on the phone. I just think they're all just missing out on really being able to communicate like we used to.
And bond and get to know people.
The older guys who used to get in the trailer, and boy, they could tell some stories. Let me tell you, it was the old stunt association guys and unlimiteds. There was nothing better than having a story to, or a lesson
especially
learned.
Of that era. It's like and then Clint Eastwood sock the guy in the face, or like one of those kind of
or a lesson I learned by an older stunt guy when I was working on Broken Arrow. It was about etiquette, and I guess I don't know. It was a late night, and we just wrapped, and usually you share a two banger with another stunt guy, and this was a stunt association older dude. And I had just gone in and I just took my clothes, my wardrobe, and I just kind of left the shit. I left it. I just dropped it all. And I walked away, and he fucking whistled me back. And he's like, Mark, he says, get your ass back here. I'm like, what's up, dude? What's up? He's like, those clothes, put them on a hanger. He says, this wardrobe, they got a job to do too. You think they're going to come in and pick up after you? It's like, put your clothes on a hanger. And if you're really a good guy, you'll take them and you'll walk them over to wardrobe. And I'm like, okay, that sounds about right. And he didn't have to say any more than that. Like, hang up your fucking clothes, dude. And it was just something that got away from me, and he had to set me straight. So
that's cool. He's looking out for you, because maybe if he didn't like you, he would have helped you out. He wouldn't have helped you out,
It was just a subtle little, pick up your shit, But then again, sometimes you get other advice from other places, and Howie Long stepped in on me one time and put his big paw on the back of my arm, on my shoulder. The deal was, for about a week, Travolta, there was a little bit of talk around town that I was getting too big. For whatever reason, I was really pumping iron, and I was just lifting, and my arms were probably 2 or 3 sizes bigger than his. And it was the word was out that Travolta's getting a little nervous that on film you're looking bigger than him. So, I was all out to, like, I was eating salads for like the next 2-3 weeks and trying to keep up and slime and everything else. And I was I was in the hotel, just kind of scrapping around, grazing through the little mini mall that they had, little mini market. And I'm picking up, some, I don't know, it's like Mounds bars and, just some Twinkies and some shit like that, and it just kind of had a little sweet tooth. And I'm grabbing this shit and I'm putting it on the counter. And the next thing I feel is his big old hand on my shoulder. It's like Riccardi, and his big old Howie Long head is right here. He said, you need to put that shit back. And he was looking out for me, because he was on to the fact that John was maybe going to fire my ass because I was too big. And I just thought that was like, okay, Howie, whatever you say.
Yeah, man.
So needless to say, I walked out of there. I think I just had a water.
Yeah. I'll just leave the water. Yeah, it's like 10 different ding dongs and all that.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
man, Mark, this has been fun. One thing I always like to ask people when it comes to, like, especially the stunts and like special effects, obviously, like, actors, there's so many times they're like, quote unquote, like on screen doing roles, and it's hard to like pinpoint something. But like for stunts, is there, if you had like, not saying you have to like choose just one, but like one offhand that you can think of that if you like look back, it's like, holy shit, like that is like the premier Mark Riccardi stunt. Like, I don't know if it's like you said, you take squibs, like thrown through a window. Is there one that you could think that you're like, holy shit, like that's me?
Well, I'd probably say there were two. There was a Heroes scene where he gets tossed, Greg Grunberg's character gets tossed out of a window. And we had to build a catcher. We were on was 3-story, 30, 40 feet up in the air. And the window was a huge glass window that had the little sparks that would kind of give it that little break. It was candy glass. But I'm going through it. So I'm hitting an air ram that propelled me. The crazy part is it was 30 feet down to 5th Street down in LA. And that day, my wife at the time and my son were down on the street. There was a crowd looking up, watching the gang. And the window, funny thing too, it had a big R on it as well. It was enabled in the glass R, so I couldn't miss it. But from the inside, knowing that you're going to hit the air ram, which is going to propel you out the window and into the catcher, was a little scary, because if you overshot it, you're in the street 30 feet to the ground. So I had the catcher was probably 20 by 20, and we rehearsed it without the window, obviously, and hitting it at a low range to where it just popped me and it sent me through the window and onto the pads. So we kept amping it up, getting it to where it was going to really look like a great scene and a great shot. And we finally did it, and we busted through the window. And, thankfully the catcher, my stunt guy, was out there on the speed rails, because he pretty much stood up and blocked me from going out into the street, because I overshot the pad by about 3 feet. So, with the adrenaline flowing, with all that action, and you're setting the air ram at a torque that's going to send you, I hit it pretty good, and it turned out to be a good little gag, but overall it could have been disastrous. And then the other one, of course, was the very last scene of Face Off. When we were riding in on the Scarab and the boat stopped. It was on a dead man's line. It came in at about 60 miles an hour, and then it just stopped, and then we were on a cable that sent us up about 30 feet in the air and swinging back and forth. And, that was hairy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just do things and they hook you up and they just say, go, you can rehearse it all you want, but when the time comes, you're really depending on a lot, there's a lot of little intricate parts of it that are going to, help make you safe. But there's always that little pinch of a time that is just like, fuck, what am I doing?
Yeah. What am I doing with my? And then when you're done, you're like, oh, that was fine.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And everything else is just, I find too that you can pad yourself up from head to toe, but when you do a stunt and you're in a barroom brawl or whatever the hell it is, you're always going to get hit in that spot that's not covered. There's always that spot that you didn't put a pad, that you fall on a fucking nail, or you get hit, but you get spiked with something, or, the craziest thing. Or you lean in. Sometimes you'll lean in too far on a punch. Guy's throwing a punch, he's going to throw it here, but you give him a little lean, and then you get plopped. There's so much going on. It's just, I just got done watching, what's The Beekeeper?
Yeah.
I mean, the fight scenes in there were just unbelievable. I mean, to think that these guys were just amazing stuff. And he's a talent as well. He never looks like he gets tired. You ever watch Statham?
I know, he's unbelievable. The Transporter movies, yeah, he never looks.
He can fight 5, 6, 7 guys, and he's not even out of breath. you know.
Yeah. He's very calm for an action guy.
Yeah.
Most guys, there's some kind of emotion. And he's great. Ever since the Transporter, like the first one, like he was in things before that, but that opportunity for him, just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, man, this has been awesome. I'm so happy we connected, dude. This is
it's
cool.
Definitely, we've been trying to do this for quite a while, but
anytime, Mark.
Do it again. Thanks, Doug.
Have a good rest of your day, man.
You got it. I'm out of here.
Crazy. Again, when it goes into thinking about what goes into a stunt, like the one that his family was there, he's about to jump in that big R, like, holy shit, this is kind of crazy. But even the one, you plan a stunt early in the morning, you don't think about it because on level ground, you're driving a car. Maybe if it rains, obviously it changes things. But if not, a road's a road. Nothing's changing in that road. Maybe the sun's in a different position. Okay. But when you're on water, you don't think about the tides. So that's pretty crazy that, wow, this big opening that we thought, okay, it's going to look really cool. Wow, it's really dicey now. But Mark was awesome. And we talked about some of his projects. So I'll put his links in the episode notes. But he directs, writes, does comedy and stuff. So Mamaluke, go back to his Italian ways of South Plainfield, New Jersey. But so your homework, live free and die hard. Such a fun film. Timothy Oliphant as a villain. Sign me up. Maggie Q as the lead henchman. Oh, I'm in love. Justin Long and Kevin Smith as a cameo. Boom. And Bruce Willis is stalking his daughter, who's that famous actress. I can't think of her right now. And what is she? She's at Rutgers University. Boom. All Jersey here that we're talking about. Really, this is like a Jersey kind of episode. Next week's a Jersey kind of episode too. McLean's a cop in New Jersey in this film. So don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast. Follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. And don't forget to check out our website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.